Hello BookTube, my name is Elizabeth and welcome to Book Babble. So today I am going to be doing my top 14 books of 2014. This isn't going to be a list that goes like best to worst, it's just going to be in the order in which I read them. Number 14 on my list, the first books that I read this year, were the last 3 books in the Pendragon series. Number 8 is The Pilgrims of Rain, number 9 is Raven Rise, and number 10 is The Soldiers of Hala. Now, I love the Pendragon series. If you guys know, it is absolutely one of my favorite series in the entire world. I have read books 1 through 7 at least a dozen times. And the reason why I always stopped at number 7 was because I got mad at the main character because of his choices that he made in book 7. Now, you guys have to read the series to understand what I'm talking about, but I was just so infuriated with Bobby Pendragon, the main male character in this story, that I couldn't continue on with the series. So at the beginning of this year, I told myself that I was determined to finally finish the Pendragon series. So I read books 8, 9, and 10 over the course of like January and February. I read these books, and I am so glad that I finally was able to finish the series. These were just amazing and so good, and if I had to put my books, all of these books in order from best to worst, I would probably be putting this as either number 1 or number 2. The Pendragon series is just absolutely amazing. If you guys want to see the covers, this is the cover for The Pilgrims of Rain. Don't mind my stickers, these are ex-library books, so, but this one is The Pilgrims of Rain. Then I read Raven Rise, which is probably my favorite cover of all of the covers in the series. And also probably my favorite book in the entire series as well. Number 10 is called The Soldiers of Hala. I have The Help by Catherine Stockett. This book is just amazing. I think I'm going to be saying these words over and over and over again because all of these books on my list were just great and amazing and I love them. But Catherine Stockett's The Help, there are no words. It's just a great novel. It's a great type of coming of age story along with everything else. And if you guys have seen the movie but you haven't read the book, I highly recommend it. You're really missing out. And one of the best books written in the 21st century. Then I read the Hunger Games trilogy. Now, any series that I read, if I deem it to be in my top 14 list, they're just going to be counted as one. So I read the Hunger Games, Catching Fire, and Mockingjay back to back at the beginning of the year, and hands down, greatest books. So good. I loved them. Each one was better than the next. A lot of people think that Catching Fire is the best. I disagree. I really liked Mockingjay, but that's another argument for another day because the whole series is just fabulous and amazing, and Susan Collins is just an absolute genius. Then I read The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. This is a young adult high fantasy novel. I wish that I had the book here with me, but I checked it out from the library. And the sequel to this book, The Heart of Betrayal, I think it is called, comes out in July, and it is my number 1 top excited for books of 2015. I cannot wait. This book was just amazing. It is about a girl who escapes the night before her wedding because she's getting married to somebody she doesn't want to get married to, and it follows her story of trying to have like a normal life, and the prince that she was supposed to get married and a assassin who was sent to kill her follow her, and you don't know which one is which because it's from each of their perspectives, but you don't know which of the 2 male characters is the prince and which one is the assassin, and it's like a big guessing game, and it was amazing, and I loved it, and it was so good. I also read the Air series by Cinda Williams-Chima. There's 5 books in this series, and it was just so good. Originally, the series was only supposed to be 3 books, the Warrior Heir, the Wizard Heir, and the Dragon Heir. She ended up publishing 2 more books, the Enchanter Heir and the Sorcerer Heir. The Sorcerer Heir is the one that came out this year, I think, and I was lucky enough to get a finished copy of that from the publisher, so I went ahead and I read the entire series, and it was just fabulous. I loved it. The whole series was just amazing, and I have a full review on the whole series, and I will link that below. Then I read The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. There is a lot of mixed reviews on this book. And it's either like people, you love it or you hate it. And I absolutely loved it. The two main characters are magicians and they both work at this night circus, and it's about like a competition to see who's better or something like that. But it's about so many other things, and this book is just so vivid, and the book is written in a way that it just lets your imagination run wild, and the pictures that the author creates in your mind are just beautiful and different, and I just love it. And this book is actually on the deck to be created into a movie, so I'm super excited about that. But the Night Circus was just beautifully written. The characters were amazing, and I just fell in love with the entire book so quickly. It really just catches your attention, and you hold on for dear life because you just want to keep reading and reading and reading. And I couldn't stop reading this book. It was just amazing. I loved it. Please read The Night Circus if you haven't. Also this year, I read Cinder and Scarlet. This is Chris that I just got in from the library. I have not had a chance to read this one yet, but Cinder and Scarlet were just amazing books, and I know that Crest is going to be even better because each book has just gotten better and better. I love it so much. The book series is amazing, the world is amazing, the characters are just great, and I love them so much. I was really worried about this book because if you don't know, Cinder is a cyborg, and you know that right off the bat. It says so on the back of the book, I'm pretty sure. So a lot of people are kind of like off put by it because it's science fiction and she's a cyborg, and I was the same exact way. I just was not sure if I wanted to read it, and I was very hesitant on starting it because I did not think I was going to like it. But immediately after I started reading it, I knew that it was an amazing book, and I just fell in love with the characters. It was great, and I cannot wait to read Crest, and then Fairest comes out in February. I read Outlander this year by Diana Gabaldon, and this book was gigantic. If you guys don't know, it is a huge 800 pages. It is an adult historical fiction novel about this woman named Claire. She's on her honeymoon with her husband, and she somehow gets transported back to 1740s Scotland, and it's about her trying to survive and, missing her husband and things like that, and trying to get back to her own time. It is a great book. It has a little bit of adult content, so please make sure that you are prepared to read something like that. But it is just beautifully written. Diana Gabaldon is an amazing author, and the book is great. I cannot wait to finish on with the rest of the series. It's got like 5 or 6 more books in the series, and they're each over 800 pages. So it's a commitment to start this series, but it is well worth it. It is amazing. Okay. Ooh, did you see that? Did you see that? That was good. That's how you get a book out without making them all fall down. Then I read Divergent by Veronica Roth, and this was as amazing as everyone says it is. I'm really nervous to read Insurgent and then Allegiant because apparently everyone hates it. So, and I've been spoiled. Poland Banana Books, she spoiled me for Allegiant. So, yep, I've been spoiled. But in other news, this book was amazing. It was just as good as everyone says it is. I love the world that Veronica Roth created. I have a little bit of an internal battle within myself because as a Ravenclaw, a diehard Ravenclaw, let me tell you, as soon as I found out what Erudite is, I wanted to be in it because their number one thing that they believe in is education and learning and brains, and that's where I wanted to be. And then, I'm not going to give away spoilers, but, they're the bad people. So but other than that, I loved this book so much. It was amazing. Then I read The Demon King by Cinda Williams-Chima. Cinda Williams-Chima is the only author that has 2 places technically on the list because I started reading Demon King by her earlier this year. I know that this is The Exiled Queen. That's the second book in the series. I have not had a chance to read it yet, but I at least wanted to give you guys like an idea of what the covers look like, which is why I have sequels and stuff. Anyway, I liked this series so far better than her Air Chronicles series, only because her Air Chronicles series is an urban fantasy, which means it takes place like now, and this is a high fantasy, and I tend to like high fantasies a bit more, but so good. The characters were awesome. I recommend if you are going to read this series to be very good with names or to write everything down, because that's what I had to do. I had to write everything down. It was pretty confusing. But anyway, this series was really, really good. If you're a fan of fantasy, high fantasy, I highly recommend this series. It was just perfection for a fantasy novel, in my opinion. Then I read The Iron Child. This was by Cassandra Clare and Holly Black. This is the first Cassandra Clare book I have ever read, also my first Holly Black book I've ever read, and the only middle grade novel that is on the list this year. It was fan-freaking-tastic. If you have not read this book because of what you've heard about it relating to Harry Potter, stop right there. Stop and go and read the book, because it is nothing like Harry Potter. It is amazing. The magic in this world, the magic system in this world is completely different from Harry Potter. The only thing that I can relate from this book to Harry Potter is that it is about a boy who goes to a magic school and he has two friends that are a girl and a boy. That's it. Only thing that's the same. Everything else is completely different. I mean, he's got magic, but other than that, everything is completely different. And it was an amazing, great book. I highly recommend it. I cannot wait for the second book to come out this year. Then I read Splintered by A.G. Howard. This is an Alice in Wonderland retelling. I loved this book. Unfortunately, I was not able to read the second book in this series this year, but I'm going to be reading it at the beginning of next year. I was so lucky to get an art copy and a finished copy from the publisher when it came out. And if you guys did not know, I am giving away an art copy of the third book in the series, which is called Ensnared. This isn't even out yet. It doesn't come out till February, I think. This book was just amazing. Like I said, I haven't been able to read the second one or the third one yet. But if you are a fan of Alice in Wonderland, especially Tim Burton's rendition of Alice in Wonderland, you will love the Splintered series. It is just so good. This one is actually more of like an update on the story, because the girl in the story, her name is Alyssa, and her great-great-great-great-great-grandmother was Alice Lindell, who Alice in Wonderland was based off of in the story. I'm not necessarily how true that is, but anyway, great book, amazing, and definitely go check out my giveaway for Ensnared. I will link that below. Recently, I read Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. This was a young adult contemporary novel about two boys named Aristotle and Dante, and it's a very good, it's a coming of age story, and I'm not a big contemporary fan, but I think this book really got me into it. It's one of the first contemporaries I've ever read, and I really enjoyed it a lot. I don't want to give too much away because I really feel like you should go into this book not knowing much, but it was great. I loved it. Awesome, amazing book. Definitely give it a try. The most recent book that I read this year that is on my top 14 of 2014 was Burned by Ellen Hopkins. I had to think about this book a lot. I wasn't sure if I liked it. I wasn't sure if I hated it. But in the end, I decided that this was an amazing book, probably in my top 5 of what I read this year. It was so well written. It made me think so much. It really put a lot of things going on in my life right now into perspective. It's one of those books that deals with a lot of young adult issues. Ellen Hopkins does that anyway. I mean, she deals with drugs and teen pregnancy and religion and abuse and all of those things that are just difficult to talk about. She deals with in her books. And if you guys did not know, she writes in verse, so which is basically poetry. So she writes in verse in all of her books, and just so good. I'm probably going to be doing a full review on this video when it is up. I will link it in the description. But this Ellen Hopkins books are just so good. If you really want to read a book that deals with a lot of the young adult problems that we have nowadays, pick up an Ellen Hopkins book, because it really makes you think about what is going on and what teens are dealing with in this day and age. And it really hits close to home, because stuff in these books has actually happened and can actually happen. So, I mean, but this book was just amazing. I loved it. I don't think it's for everybody. If you don't want to deal with sex and drugs and those hard issues, don't read an Ellen Hopkins book. But if you're down for that, definitely give it a try, because it was so good. Alright guys, thank you so much for coming to my top 14 books of 2014. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to know what your favorite book this year was. Comment in the comment section down below, and also don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.